Well, it's April 2010. Welcome back to the allotment. It's been an absolutely awful winter, but we're now into spring. It's lovely spring weather and the allotment is coming back to life. Now we're here on bed 4, which is one of the beds that wasn't too successful for us last year, and what we're going to create here is a raised bed and a pond. Now the reason we're going to do that is because this ground here actually turns out to be very wet when it rains, and we're advised that if we put in a raised bed then we'll get around a lot of the problems that we had with the dampness of the ground. But we also want a pond anyway because there's already a number of frogs in the area, and we believe that by having the pond here it will actually encourage more frogs to live on the allotment, and they're good for the allotment because they eat all the bugs. Well, behind me is bed 5. Bit of mixed results from here from last year. Very good potato crop. We put the raspberries in last year as well and didn't get a massive crop from them, got a modest crop, but they're actually growing very well now, and there are a lot of new runners on the raspberries as well. Now, we planted winter cabbages on the allotment here last year, and unfortunately we lost the lot, mainly to the rabbits and possibly some to the slugs as well. So behind me here, where the cabbages were, we've now planted onions, and they're just starting to come through, but as you'll be able to see in a moment, the actual bed itself needs a lot of work doing on it, and needs a lot of weeding. Now down here this way, when we first got the allotment there was one big patch of rhubarb down here, and then we thought it died out. So last year we put some more clumps of rhubarb in, then discovered that they not only were they growing well, but the original rhubarb that we thought had died out was growing well as well. So we're going to have a good crop of rhubarb this year. But as you can see, the raspberries are starting to grow, a good lot of shoots on them, and up at the top end we've got some of the herbs that we planted last year. In the centre there we've got some angelica as well, but we also planted last year a pear tree and, sorry, not a pear tree, it was a plum tree, a Victoria plum. Got a good quantity of fruit on that last year, but also we planted an apple tree as well, and both of them are coming into bud, so we're hopefully going to get a good crop off those. Well, behind me is the fruit cage, and this is one of the victims of the awful winter weather, and the roof of it has collapsed under the weight of snow, so we've got to do a lot of repairs on it. But interestingly, a lot of what's planted inside it is actually now well established, and we're rather looking forward to some good crops. Now, down on the ground on the floor level are the strawberries that we planted last year. Now, they had previously been planted in other parts of the allotment, but we brought them together here and they spread very rapidly. So they're already spread across the floor to where the first set of raspberries that we put in, and towards the top end the black currants and the red currants and the blueberries which we planted last year are already budding well. Some of them are well into leaf, so again that looks as though they are well established. Now on bed 3 here, I'll just get down to ground level for you. This is being used mainly for garlic, and last year we had a very good garlic crop, and again it's something that we want to repeat this year. So as you can see, the garlic is already coming through in a good quantity, and up towards the top end some later growing garlic for cropping later in the year is well established as well. Well, here we are in the greenhouse. We built it in January last year, and it was a real great boon for us because it really allowed us to get some of our early crops established. And again, we're using it for this year for getting our seedlings growing, and also for the potatoes as well, which we'll show you in a moment. But we've got our aubergines starting to come through here, plus the tomatoes as well. Now, last year we had tomatoes growing in this greenhouse, very successful, and really it almost took over. it took over very much the sort of the whole structure of the greenhouse, except on the floor, because here on both sides, on the ground last year, we had cucumbers growing. Now that was the first time we had cucumbers. We'd grown cucumbers, and again we're going to have a go again this year at growing them, and I'm delighted to say that they are just starting to come through here. So once they started growing, they just kept producing cucumber after cucumber after cucumber, so it was a very successful crop, and we're really looking forward to that. On this side, I know I said before that the slugs and the rabbits got our cabbages, but we are having a go at growing more, some summer cabbages and collies as well, and these are growing in the seed trays here. Now 2 years ago, I'll just bring this one out here. 2 years ago we had a very successful crop of gherkins which we grew out in the allotment itself rather than here in the greenhouse. Last year it was a complete failure. They just didn't get anywhere. So we're having a go at growing them again, and as you can see, just on my thumb there, and another one in the centre there, just coming through. So hopefully we'll have a bit more success with them than we did last year. Well, here we are on beds 1 and 2. These are the beds that we first set out when we took on the allotment 3 years ago. So we've had quite a rotation of crops on here. We haven't decided yet what's going to go on here, but we've got the potatoes to plant, we've got beans, and we've got the cabbages and cauliflowers. So there's a reasonable amount of space here, but we've just got to make sure that we have a good variety of crops and not putting the same crops on year after year. Well, this is supposed to be bed 6. We've never cultivated this bit yet, and this whole section of the allotment, it's about a third of the allotment, has never actually been cultivated. Now the whole of the allotment was like this when we took it on. It had been derelict for about 10 years, and our big plan this year is to get all of this cultivated. But the problem is it's going to take quite a bit of time to be able to hack out particularly all these brambles and get them dug out and got rid of, and then get the soil up to a decent quality. So it may be that we'll get a few crops off here this year, but the main aim is to get it ready at least for next year. But as you can see, it's going to take an awful lot of work because it goes right over into the far corner of the allotment there, and we're cheating. I've got to confess that. We're getting somebody in as of this coming week who's actually going to chop all this back and get it out for us, and then the big job after that will be to get this all manured and hopefully get at least a few crops onto it. So that's where we are at the moment in April, and see you again next month when hopefully we'll have some of these crops in the greenhouse will actually be planted in the ground.